Before we dive in, I want to share something with you. If you've ever found yourself in the middle of a panic attack thinking, I don't know what to do, I don't know what to say to myself right now, I created a free guide called Panic Attacks: What to Say to Your Brain When You're Spiraling. Because in these moments, it's not about trying to force yourself to calm down or think positive. It's about having supportive words that actually meet your brain where it is so you can stop the spiral from escalating. Inside, I walk you through simple, grounded phrases you can say to yourself when your mind is telling you you're not safe, something is wrong, or you're losing all control. It's free and you can grab it in the show notes. I'm Shannon Ireland, your host of a Healthy Push podcast. I struggled with anxiety, panic disorder, and agoraphobia for 15 years. Everything used to be hard for me. Even just driving 5 minutes from my house used to feel impossible. But now I absolutely live for travel and adventure, and I experience lots of peace and joy. I've not only reclaimed my life, but I've helped hundreds of others to do the same. Here, we stop managing anxiety and instead we create a healthy relationship with it. One where you say goodbye to the anxious thoughts, symptoms, panic attacks, and fears, and you actually live your life. Forget complicated strategies, quick fixes, or the same old hacks you've heard 100 times before. Each week, I'll bring you simple, actionable advice and honest conversations that lead to real, long-term healing. You aren't just an anxious person, my friend. There are reasons why you're struggling with anxiety, and these are things you can fix and heal from. And this is where that journey begins. Welcome. You're right where you're meant to be. Hello, and welcome back to a Healthy Push podcast. So, today we're going to talk about mindset. And I kind of can't believe that I haven't talked about this topic yet because it actually is something that I really love talking about. It's something that I love teaching about, and it's really important. So, I also think I really want to talk about this topic because it's one of the most confusing and frustrating topics, I think, in relation to anxiety recovery. On one side, I think you can hear things like, just change your thoughts and you'll feel better, right? Just change your mindset, which can feel really dismissive and invalidating. And honestly, so infuriating when you're struggling with something that is so freaking hard. And then on the other side, you can hear that mindset doesn't matter at all. Like, don't do that work, don't bother. This is purely a nervous system thing, and thinking about your thoughts, working on changing them, your beliefs is pointless. And I don't agree with either of these extremes because mindset isn't everything, but it actually does matter a lot. And I say that as someone whose mindset was absolute garbage for years. I really didn't believe that recovery was possible for me. And honestly, I wasn't allowing it to even be an option. And I didn't realize how much my mindset and my thoughts and my beliefs were quietly keeping me really stuck. So, today I want to talk to you about what mindset actually means in anxiety recovery and some traps that can keep you stuck, and why changing your mindset doesn't magically remove anxiety, right, and cure you, but it does change whether recovery can happen at all. Okay, let's start by what I mean by mindset, because I think it's important to define this a little. When we talk about mindset, I want to be really clear about what I'm not talking about. I'm not talking about just positive affirmations, like stand there, tell yourself all these things, jam it into your brain, and your brain's going to get it. I'm also not talking about forcing yourself to feel calm. I'm not talking about pretending anxiety isn't happening, right? You don't control your thoughts. And you, of course, don't think your way out of feeling anxious or out of panicking. And if you've ever tried to do that, you know how absolutely unhelpful that advice is. So when I talk about mindset, I'm talking about something much deeper. I'm talking about the beliefs that you hold about anxiety and about yourself and about what panic means and about whether you can cope and about what your future looks like. Mindset is really the lens you view anxiety through. It's the story that you're telling yourself while anxiety is happening, not whether or not anxiety is happening. And if you are not new here, you know how much I love doing work surrounding the stories that you tell yourself because I think it is some of the most powerful work you can do. When you start becoming aware of the stories, when you start acknowledging them and you start saying, this doesn't seem to be true, it doesn't feel good. This is a story I've often told myself, and it's kind of shitty. And maybe we can do some reframing. Maybe we can tell ourselves a different story. That is some of the most helpful work you can do in anxiety recovery because changing the stories helps change your beliefs. And when you change your beliefs, it helps you so much in taking the healthy action that's going to help you to recover. So, let's talk about how mindset keeps you stuck. Like I was saying, if you have certain beliefs, and oftentimes these beliefs that we have, they're pretty quiet. They're like under the surface, and we often don't recognize them. And they can be things like, this is just how I am, right? This is just who I am. I'm just anxious. I can't handle this. If panic happens, it means I'm back at square one. If recovery was working, I wouldn't feel this way. I wouldn't feel so bad. I would be able to do this by now. Other people recover, but I'm different. I can't. Like all of these beliefs, sometimes we don't even realize that they're stories that we're telling ourselves. And I just want to say this clearly. Like, if you have any of these thoughts, it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean you're weak. It doesn't mean you're doing recovery wrong. It doesn't mean you're broken. Like, these beliefs usually form because you've been scared and you've been struggling for a long time. And these stories have been protective to some degree and they make sense. But when you let these stories go unchallenged, it creates so much chaos. And it's like this bubbling under the surface. And at times it really does explode because these things start to feel like facts, and those facts dictate your behavior. And oftentimes, when we hold these beliefs, we don't take the actions, right? We convince ourselves, like, there's no point. I'm just not going to do it. This was absolutely my experience. For years, my mindset was filled with hopelessness and self blame. Like, I truly believed that anxiety was just who I was. Like, it was a part of me. It was the biggest part of me, that my anxiety meant that there was something fundamentally wrong with me. Like, when you say like broken, I truly felt this way. Like, I felt like my brain was broken. I felt like my body was broken. I felt like I was broken. And on top of all this, like, I truly believed I was born anxious. Like, I believed that I sort of just came out of the womb anxious. And I believed because I had a genetic predisposition to anxiety disorders that I was doomed. I believed too much had happened to me in order for me to recover. I believed I had been struggling for too long and too bad. And my anxiety was just different and worse than anyone else's. I'm sure if you're listening, you're probably like, oh my God, Shannon, like this is how I feel, or I felt that way. And when you feel this way, trying feels pointless. Like, I felt like trying was so freaking pointless. And I felt like panic attacks and setbacks were like proof I was broken and that recovery wasn't possible for me. And avoidance just felt like it was justified. It felt like it made sense because why would I push myself if I already believed I couldn't handle it? If I couldn't handle the anxiety, if I couldn't do it, if my life couldn't look any differently. And the thing is, I wasn't choosing to think this way. Like, I wasn't consciously choosing to sabotage myself and my recovery. But looking back, I can see that my mindset was not allowing recovery to even be a possibility. I remember so many times, like my mom saying to me, Shannon, you're going to get better. Things are going to get better. You're not always going to struggle with this. You are going to heal. And I just would get so freaking frustrated. And I instantly would go into that shutdown of like, no, like you're wrong. That's not me. And like, that's not going to happen. And it's not a possibility. And I really wasn't allowing recovery to be a possibility. It was not that I was failing, but my beliefs were like literally closing the door on recovery before I even had a chance. So before I go into some helpful stuff, I want to talk about why mindset isn't the cure because I don't want anyone thinking oh, Shannon said, right? Just change my mindset and I'm going to get better and everything's going to get better. I'm not saying that. I truly believe this. There's not one thing that's like this magical fix or cure for anxiety, right? Disordered anxiety. You can't mindset your way out of anxiety or panic. You can't think your nervous system into calm. Like you cannot logic your way out of fear. Recovery really requires action. It requires feeling. It requires doing things while anxious. It requires retraining your nervous system, right? Through experience, through actions. But here's the key piece: mindset hugely determines whether you take those actions. It determines whether you try again after a hard moment, after a panic attack, right? Whether you interpret anxiety as danger or discomfort, whether a hard moment or a setback, as you might say, becomes information or proof that you're failing. Mindset does not remove anxiety, but it does determine whether or not you keep showing up. This was the thing that I didn't understand, right? Like, I oftentimes just thought that mindset stuff is total BS, like, it's not helpful, it's so silly, but it really does determine whether or not you take the actions. Because if you're just sitting in that place of, this is just me, this is just who I am, I'm just an anxious person, heck, you are not going to have any energy or any desire to take any healthy steps. So, really, where I think mindset helps and hugely comes into play is it allows you to take the actions that are going to help you to create that healthy relationship with anxiety. It's not the cure, but it is incredibly helpful in getting you to take healthy action. So, let's talk about what a recovery supportive, healthy mindset actually looks like. And when I say this, I'm not talking about telling yourself, like, you got to love anxiety, you got to love what's happening, or that everything's fine, right? It is much more subtle. It's just supportive, healthy, helpful self talk. Things you've probably heard me say, like, this is uncomfortable. It's not dangerous. I don't need certainty in order to continue on and in order to continue to take action. I can feel this and still do this thing. I can still feel this and live my life. Setbacks, hard moments, those things don't erase my progress. I can learn a new response, even if anxiety shows up. I am making progress, even though it doesn't feel like it. Recovery is possible for me. I am capable of learning how to create a healthy relationship with anxiety, and I will get there. These things, a lot of people would define these as affirmations, which is totally fine. But these affirmations aren't things that you repeat to feel better. They're really thoughts that you practice while doing the hard things. And you might not initially believe these things. And you might think the things that you're telling yourself are absolute bullshit. And I always tell my students, that's okay. I don't need you to believe them in the moment, but I need you to stop the negative self talk, the telling yourself all this horrible stuff. And I need you to give yourself some healthy, kind messages because that's going to help you take action much more than beating yourself up. Because over time, these thoughts will start to feel more believable. And it won't be because you forced them, but it will be because your experience, right, those actions start to actually back these beliefs up. Like, you've got to allow your mindset to shift so that recovery can be a possibility for you. Like, please don't get stuck in the trap that I was stuck in for a decade of like not letting recovery be a possibility. So, if you are feeling like, okay, Shannon, my mindset is garbage, like I totally resonate with all this, I want to talk to you for a second. Having a negative mindset, having this, I hate even saying negative, but having this mindset does not mean anything. I know we can think like, I'm broken, my brain's broken, I'm doomed, recovery is not possible. It makes sense that you've developed this mindset. You've been scared for a long time, right? You've been struggling with some really hard things for a long time. You don't need to believe recovery is going to happen. You don't need to believe it's guaranteed. You don't need confidence. You don't need to feel ready. You don't need a lot of the things that you really want. You want them. You just need to stop believing it's impossible and make really small shifts to allow yourself to start to think and believe differently. Like your beliefs about yourself, your beliefs about your relationship with anxiety, your beliefs about your life, like these things can shift, but you've got to allow them to. And mindset doesn't shift before you take action, right? It shifts because you keep showing up, even when it's uncomfortable, even when you're like, oh my God, I have no hope. Like, this is not going to happen for me. Mindset requires action. So you can't just do the affirmations, right? You can't just stand in the mirror and tell yourself all these glorious things and then your life magically shifts. No, you've got to take action. But the supportive, helpful, healthy self talk helps you a ton in taking the hard action. So, does mindset matter in recovery? Yes. I will always say yes. But it's not because it makes anxiety disappear or go away, right? But it does determine whether or not you keep going. Mindset is not everything, but it's also not optional. Like, this is one of those things I always say there are so many tools, there are so many helpful things out there, but there are some things that are non negotiable. Like, you have to do it. And I think mindset, honestly, in my opinion, falls under self compassion. And self compassion, I always say, is the one thing, it's non negotiable. You can't recover without it. Like, you've got to have it. And it's a lot of what people are missing. And it's a big reason why people struggle for so long. Mindset is a part of self compassion. It's a part of supporting yourself. It's a part of being there for yourself, like actually allowing yourself to have different beliefs and to allow yourself to take actions and to move forward and to heal and to live that life you want to live. Recovery doesn't require perfection, it doesn't require perfect thoughts, a perfect mindset, perfect anything, but it does require a willingness. It requires a gentleness, a curiosity, and it requires leaving the freaking door open, even if it's just a crack. Like, you've got to leave the door open. Your mindset does not have to be all rainbows, butterfly, sunshine. You just have to allow recovery to be possible. And that alone can change everything. And looking back, I honestly think, the many, many times my mom would say, Shannon, it's going to happen. Like, you're going to get better and things aren't always going to look like this. I literally wanted to just like slap her every time she would say this stuff to me. But I think she was trying to help me with my mindset, right? And it's so hard because people outside of yourself are support systems. Like, as much as they love you and care about you, they cannot fix the internal stuff that's going on. They can't change your inner dialogue. They can't change your inner self talk. That has to come from you. And I wish this is something that I had recognized, as annoying as my mom was at the time. She was really trying to get me to see, like, you gotta change the way that you're talking about yourself. You gotta change the way that you're looking at things. You've got to actually let recovery be a possibility for you. And I think, thank goodness, she kept being annoying and kept saying these things because I think it really did help me start to shift and make some healthier changes. But gosh, it is frustrating, right? Because a lot of times stuff like this are things but working on changing your mindset is really freaking hard. And I always say it's much easier when you do this with support and guidance. And especially with people who freaking get it, with people who understand, with people who you don't have to like overly explain shit to. So, mindset is a big thing that I work on with all of my students in my Healthy Push coaching and community. That's where we literally meet live every single week. I teach and then we have group support and discussion. Like, we work a lot on mindset because it is such a big piece of recovery. And we also work on mindset, of course, in my Panic to Peace program. Literally, it's like module one, that's where we start. I don't label it as mindset stuff because I think people would be like rolling their eyes and just like, Shannon, I not know this is ridiculous. I do it subtly, but it's where we start because you have to allow yourself to look at the beliefs that you hold and you have to allow yourself to start to shift these things. And when you do, things start to get less heavy, they start to feel less hard. You see more of the light. Like, recovery is possible. Oh my gosh, maybe I can do this, right? And you need all the freaking hope and all the light when you're working on recovering. So if you are like, I really struggle with mindset, I would love for you to look at my coaching and community, look at my Panic to Peace program. Like these are two places that I work heavily with students on to shift their beliefs and to allow recovery to be a possibility and to just help expedite their healing. Because I truly believe like recovery does not have to take so long. It does not have to be so hard. It's just we often get stuck in places that we don't know how to get out of because we don't have guidance and support and we don't have connection. And these things allow you to heal those things in a way where it's really less freaking hard and it's less terrifying and it's less isolating, of course, and just less awful in general. So I will put the link to the show notes in both of those things. And I would love to see and support you, of course, in either. But in general, listening to this episode, I would love for you to think like, what's a belief that I currently hold about myself, my recovery? And where could you make one subtle shift, one healthy shift, right? Like I always say, it's the tiny, smallest shifts that really help you to heal and recover. Okay, until next time, keep taking healthy action. I hope you loved this episode of A Healthy Push. If you have, I'd be so grateful if you could leave me a rating and review wherever you're listening to this podcast. This helps people to find the show and get the support they need. And if you know someone who could use a little push, be sure to share this episode with them. And for even more support, head over to ahealthypush.com for show notes and loads of tips, tools, and inspiration to help you on your recovery journey. I'll see you next week.